For decades, Russia has been keeping this banned and hazardous location hidden. Rumors and whispers have gone about regarding a secret spot that is off limits to the curious public. But what's on the inside? Russia has gone to great efforts to conceal this location. Why? Come with us as we reveal the truth about the top 20 most hazardous secret locations that no one is permitted to see by removing the layers of secrecy. Number 20. The Vatican Secret Archives. The most priceless records of the Catholic Church are preserved at the Vatican Secret Archives, which are located inside Vatican City. The records of heresy trials, correspondence exchanged with famous historical personalities, papal decrees, and other documents may be found in these archives, which span centuries. These archives have been carefully guarded since their establishment in 1612. Access is limited to qualified researchers only, and even then they may only peruse a fraction of the enormous library. Among the many intriguing features of the Vatican Secret Archives is the extensive collection of documents it houses, which includes personal letters and papal bulls. The many documents provide light on various eras of church history. The records of heresy trials are among the most fascinating aspects of the archives. By illuminating the difficulties encountered by those who ventured to challenge orthodoxy, these writings provide light on a very controversial era in church history. Access to the Vatican Secret Archives is not often allowed, despite the abundance of information kept there. A thorough application procedure is necessary for scholars to show their credentials and research goals. Many papers are still inaccessible to all but the most reputable scholars, and even then, access is restricted to only a part of the archives. Number 19. The astonishing Doomsday Vault. Hidden in the frigid Arctic of the Svalbard archipelago sits the legendary Doomsday Vault. There are 3 vaults offshooting from the main chamber. However, only one of them is operational at the moment. Upon entering, a heavy coating of ice is apparent. In this underground storage facility, plant seeds are preserved in delicate silver packets and placed in well-organized test tubes, which are housed in enormous boxes that stretch the length of the vault. In the event of a worldwide disaster, these seeds might be the only way to guarantee that everyone has access to food. There has been a dramatic shift in agricultural practices within the previous 50 years. The loss of biodiversity has occurred with the increase in agricultural yields caused by these changes. The trend toward monoculture, in which farmers focus on cultivating only 1 or 2 crop varieties, exposes our food supply to more natural disasters like droughts and illnesses. It's a precarious position, as our life depends so much on a small number of plant species. The seeds kept inside are very important, hence the vault is off limits to the general public. On some days, nevertheless, certain persons may be allowed admission due to exceptional circumstances. Number 18. The Montserrat Exclusion Zone. The picturesque collection of islands in the northeastern Caribbean includes the little island of Montserrat, which is around 10 miles in length and 7 miles in width. Christopher Columbus bestowed its name to it upon seeing its verdant splendor on his second voyage. Known as the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean, Montserrat first attracted Irish settlers in 1632 from neighboring St. Kitts. The inhabitants of Montserrat requested French administration during a period of regional unrest, but the English quickly acquired the island and formally recognized it as British property in 1667 with the Treaty of Bradham. Similar shifts of authority occurred on other islands in the Caribbean during the same period. Montserrat saw brief stints of foreign authority throughout the years, alternating between the British and the French. In 1995, the long-dormant Soufriere Hills volcano erupted, bringing devastation despite the disagreement. In July of that year, the volcano erupted with such force that it wiped out large areas. Over the next 5 years, about 2/3 of Montserrat's population was forced to depart, with a large number of them migrating to the UK. In spite of everything, people are working to restore Montserrat's spirit and upgrade the island's infrastructure. Number 17. Historical Russia-Finland border. In 1595, the Kingdom of Sweden and the Moscow Tsar signed a peace treaty, which began the historical account of the boundary between Russia and Finland. Beginning with this pact, which went all the way to the Barents Sea, the Swedish and Muscovite governments began to divide Lapland. The importance of the border was further solidified after Finland's 1917 Declaration of Independence, which led to its strengthening. The Paris Peace Treaty formally created the contemporary demarcations of the boundary that stretches from the Gulf of Finland to the Russian-Norwegian border half a century later. The border patrols of both countries keep a close eye on the 1,340 kilometers long border zone today. Special authorization is needed to enter this border zone, and passage is only allowed at authorized checkpoints. But since 2015, Finland's border controls have been becoming steadily tighter. First, there were restrictions on how bicycles might cross the border. Then, in 2016, Finland's Foreign Minister Timo Soini accused Russia of helping migrants enter the country. Amid worsening tensions between the two nations, Finland began building a border barrier in 2023. With the exception of Raja Giuseppe, all checkpoints were closed as tensions rose. Number 16, North Korea Room 39. It is said that a plane structure in Pyongyang is home to the mystery organization known as Room 39, which operates inside North Korea. Rumor has it that Room 39 is vital to North Korea's clandestine wealth creation operations. They may be involved in drug production, insurance fraud, and the creation of counterfeit currency, among other illicit endeavors. It is thought that these measures assist Kim Jong-un and other high-ranking North Korean officials in obtaining funds from outside sources. Nobody has a firm grasp of Room 39's function, despite several educated assumptions. Although intelligence services make an effort to get knowledge about Room 39, the most of our knowledge is based on speculation. We still don't know everything about North Korea, but stories from spies and those who have fled the country give us a good sense. It is difficult to comprehend and cope with hidden financial networks in nations where a single individual or small group has absolute control, as is shown by the haziness around Room 39. Concerned about the proliferation of illicit money networks, some nations have stepped up their efforts to monitor Room 39, put a halt to its activities, and cut off its funding in recent years. Number 15, Chichen Itza City. One of the most famous ancient city ruins in Mexico's Yucatan state is Chichen Itza. Attracting visitors from all over the world, this ancient site, built by the clever Maya civilization between the 8th and 12th centuries, offers priceless insights into the Maya way of life and beliefs. Around 2.2 million people visit Chichen Itza annually. Though most of the site's attractions are open to the public, El Castillo, also called the Temple of Kukulkan, is now off-limits. The site is crowned by this step pyramid, and clever use of astronomical alignments in its construction gives the impression of a feathered snake sliding down its stairs via the shadows it casts. In addition, the building's design incorporates acoustic effects, such as a clapping sound that resembles the sacred Quetzal bird's cry. Those with an adventurous spirit used to climb the 91 stairs on one side of the temple to reach the top. But new studies have shown a big sinkhole under the building, so now many are worried about their safety. Authorities banned climbing on the temple and several other monuments in the city after a tragic visitor fell from the top in 2006. Number 14, the North Sentinel Island. There are few places on Earth as off-limits as North Sentinel Island. The Sentinelese are a remote indigenous people that live in extreme isolation and resort to violence when necessary to maintain their covert existence. Despite being subject to Indian government regulations, the Sentinelese have surprisingly maintained their presence on this region for more than 50,000 years. Due to its enigmatic location, this island has long been off-limits to anyone seeking adventure. Whenever you meet with its people, things tend to become heated. Tragically, in 2006, 2 fishermen lost their lives when their boat touched down on the Sentinelese island by mistake and ran across hostile locals. Rigid regulations are in place to ensure the sentinels remain separated. Unauthorized individuals are prevented from accessing their territory within a 3-mile zone. The local Indian administration has also abandoned all attempts to reach out to the indigenous people. The necessity to honor their need for solitude is underscored by the fact that external illnesses may decimate the whole tribe in the event of contact. Contrary to popular belief, North Sentinel Island is not the only isolated location. From the Amazon to Antarctica, each of the world's top 10 banned places has its own mystique and intrigue. Mysteries and dangers abound in these locations, drawing people in. Number 13. The mysterious Snake Island. It is an island off the coast of Brazil, as its name implies. The golden lancehead, widely recognized as one of the world's deadliest serpents, is among the many poisonous snakes that call this area home. Beyond Brazil, the island's infamous notoriety has made it known as the most banned location in the world. No human being should ever set foot on this mysterious and potentially dangerous island. The Brazilian government has made it a crime to enter Snake Island. Although there are around 4,000 golden lancehead snakes that traverse its landscape, anybody unlucky enough to come into contact with one of these serpents might suffer severe injuries or even die. Suppose you worked up the nerve to go on to the Forbidden Island, only to find a swarm of poisonous serpents waiting around every bend. There is a terrifyingly high probability of getting bitten and then dying from the poison. Taking this chance is, without a doubt, not worth it. However, the legislation presents an insurmountable obstacle regardless of if snakes were not an issue. It is not only prohibited, but also highly discouraged to set foot on Snake Island. For the safety of its citizens, the Brazilian government has instituted stringent regulations to prevent intrepid souls from setting foot on the island. Number 12. The Mezhgorje in Russia. Hidden amid the rugged Ural Mountains lies the Russian settlement of Mezhgorje. Its existence and the rationale for its clandestine construction in the 1970s remain mostly unclear. There have been rumors that Mezhgorje conceals a nuclear facility, which may be used for a sophisticated defensive system. Until the fall of the Soviet Union, no one knew about this secret village. The Ural Mountains have ensured that it remains concealed even now. Guarded by 2 military units, Mezhgorje is difficult to get and only available to a small number of people. Only the highest-ranking officials have any idea of its purpose. Therefore, it remains shrouded in mystery. Its sophisticated equipment, which may be used for nuclear defense, sits underneath its placid exterior. A nuclear response system that is both automatic and mysterious has many wondering what goes on there. Both the clandestine nature of its operations and its remote location in the Ural Mountains contribute to the mystique surrounding Mezhgorje. Governments will go to great lengths to protect their secrets, since only approved individuals are allowed entry. Even though it's under wraps, Mezhgorje is visible from space, which suggests a well-thought-out design and massive activities. Exactly why it was created is a mystery. Number 11. The Mayak Production Association. It is located in the Chelyabinsk region of Russia, specifically in the city of Ozersk. It was founded in 1948 with the intention of producing nuclear bomb components. A major event happened at the Mayak chemical facility on September 29, 1957. The explosion of a tank holding around 80 tons of hazardous waste occurred at 16:22 local time, according to official sources. Since no separate inquiry was launched in the aftermath of the tragedy, the precise chain of events is still unknown. 2 times as much radioactive material was discharged into the environment as was released after the Hiroshima bombing, with an estimated 20 million curies. The subsequent creation of a radioactive cloud caused fallout to occur 12 hours later. Contamination therefore reached at least 2,117 inhabited areas, affecting more than 200,000 people. Hundreds of thousands of people, mostly military personnel, had to pitch in once the tragedy happened. Because there wasn't enough labor, people from adjacent communities were also enlisted to help lessen the environmental damage, even though they weren't aware of the radioactive danger. The government set up a sanitary protection zone of 700 square kilometers to deal with the persistent threat. The designation of this region as the East Ural Nature Reserve dates back to 1968. Number 10. Poveglia Island. The Italian island of Poveglia is the 16th largest lagoon island in the Venetian lagoon. It has a reputation for being haunted and significant in history. It served as a quarantine for those afflicted with the bubonic plague in the 14th century, and subsequently housed mental health patients until 1968. An interesting part of its history is how it went from helping the ill to accommodating those with mental health issues. The spooky tales and hauntings of Poveglia Island have grown in popularity throughout the years. Ghost sightings and other paranormal activity have made this location popular among both locals and tourists. The island's mysteries remain concealed due to the restricted access despite people's curiosity. The 2014 sale of Poveglia Island by the Italian government rekindled curiosity in the island's enigmatic history. However, the island's mysteries remain hidden behind its stringent regulations, making exploration difficult. The island's cultural significance has prompted the government to take measures to ensure its continued existence. Poveglia Island is geographically significant inside the Venetian lagoon and has a tragic past, all of which contribute to its attractiveness. Number 9. The Korean Demilitarized Zone. The border between North and South Korea is this specific location. No one other than high-ranking officials is allowed to come. It is occupied entirely by them. Because to its extensive defenses, this area is among the most militarized on Earth. Interestingly, it has the capability to fire almost 10,000 rounds per minute at Seoul. The demilitarized zone that divides the Korean peninsula is an exclusive and closely monitored region. It's a literal border, but it also represents the animosity and hostility between the two countries. The zone is historically and strategically important, despite its intimidating appearance. A demilitarized zone of about 250 kilometers in length and 4 kilometers in width was established after the Korean War armistice in 1953. Barbed wire fences, guard posts, and landmines make up its terrain, creating an impenetrable barrier. The zone is one of the most highly fortified boundaries in the world, with an estimated 1.2 million active troops stationed there. The magnitude of the struggle between the two Koreas is underscored by the abundance of armaments and military equipment. Number 8. The Grand Shrine of Ise. Japan is the birthplace of Shintoism, a religion centered on the veneration of kami, or supernatural entities, who are said to live in various shrines across the nation. The scale of these shrines ranges from modest house shrines to massive complexes, and they number somewhere about 100,000. Of them, the Ise Grand Shrine in Honshu Island's Ice City is most revered. People think it's where the sun goddess Amaterasu lives, so they built a temple there to honor her. Using cypress wood, the inner shrine, Naiku, is built without nails. The legendary Holy Mirror of Japan is supposedly protected by it as well. The shrine has been rebuilt many times since its original construction about 2,400 years ago. Only members of the Japanese imperial family and invited guests are allowed entry to its inner sanctuary. The current high priestess of the temple, Sakokura, is a member of the imperial family. She is the daughter of Emperor Emeritus Akihito. Peering through the surrounding fence is about as near as most visitors will go to the shrine. Only members of the imperial family or highly renowned persons are allowed admission due to its strong connection to the family. There is no legitimate way to view the mysteries guarded inside this holy enclave unless one is born into royalty. Number 7. Policier State Radio-Ecological Reserve. Radiation contamination was a major result of the Chernobyl nuclear tragedy. Its effects extended beyond Ukraine to Belarus as well. 3 districts in the Gomel area were affected by the radioactive fallout caused by this man-made tragedy. They established the first radio-ecological reserve in 1988 to examine the effects of radiation on the environment. In its 2,162 square kilometers, you'll find 96 ghost towns. There were almost 20,000 residents there prior to the catastrophe. Everyone had to evacuate to more secure areas of the area. Plants, animals, and birds have flourished in the reserve ever since people departed. Approximately 1,251 plant species, 54 animal species, 25 fish species, and 280 bird species now call this area home. Ensuring the safety of individuals and conducting research on the effects of radiation on the environment were the dual objectives behind the establishment of the PO Reserve. Within the reserve, they established a research facility complete with beehives, orchards, and farms. Today, visitors may choose from a number of itineraries that take them through regions with typical radiation levels, ensuring their safety. The majority of the reserve, however, remains polluted. Therefore, entry is restricted to researchers and employees only. Number 6. Bangar Fort. Located around 146 miles from Delhi, Bangar Fort is in the Indian state of Rajasthan. The then ruler of the area, Madho Singh, had it built in 1573 as a stately home for his youngest son. It was also an important outpost for defending their area and keeping outsiders at arm's length. The fort was enormous, but most of it is in ruins now. Ancient temple ruins, a lively marketplace, many palaces, and modest homes where commoners previously resided are all open to the public. Tourists go from all over to see Bangar Fort, which is located in the heart of the area. After dusk, however, owing to paranormal activity, entry is limited. During its prime, the fort was home to people who faced difficult times, which gave rise to scary stories and urban legends. Local legend has it that the sacred ground upon which the fort stood belonged to a respected religious figure who had a strict rule against buildings higher than himself. It was thought that if someone threw shadows over his house, the evildoers would be damned for all time. Number 5. The Red Zone. Located in northeastern France, the Red Zone, also known as the Zone Rouge, was a particularly devastated region during World War I. The area was almost entirely devastated after the war, which posed significant challenges, particularly in terms of cultivation. It was thought that humans could never survive in the area when it got so hazardous. The French government therefore outlawed access to the zone. Contrary to popular belief, the Red Zone is not a desolate wasteland, but rather a haunted location, brimming with relics from long-gone eras. People should not go there because of the high risk of injury or death caused by the abundance of unexploded weapons and human and animal remains that are lying about. Walking into the zone, in and of itself, might trigger an explosion with catastrophic consequences. In order to prevent potential accidents, this prohibition is essential, not only a precaution. Horrors committed in the Red Zone serve as a sobering reminder of the far-reaching effects of the conflict on both nature and human culture. The Red Zone remains inaccessible and hazardous even after all these years. It demonstrates both the resilience of nature and the enduring impact of conflict. Deciphering its mysteries isn't simply fraught with peril. It's like venturing into a seedy alley where ghosts from long ago haunt the present. Number 4. The Ceuta Wall. Located on the northern coast of Africa, the city of Ceuta has long been a part of Spain. Nevertheless, this territory is also claimed by Morocco. This has not stopped the Spanish from maintaining their dominance over Ceuta. An influx of undocumented African migrants caused widespread anarchy in Ceuta in the early 1990s. In 1993, the Spanish government chose to construct a series of border constructions that would separate Ceuta from Morocco in order to resolve this issue. At first, the Moroccan government was unhappy because it refused to acknowledge Spain's control over Ceuta. Still, work continued on the wall around Ceuta. The first barrier, built in 1993, was 2.5 meters in height and 8.5 kilometers in length. Nevertheless, even at this height, migrants were able to get access. The barrier was raised to a height of 3 meters in 1995 as part of an effort to fortify it. Then, in 2005, it was increased to 6 meters once again. Barbed wire, motion and noise detectors and surveillance cameras now encircle the parallel barrier constructions that make up the Ceuta Wall. Number 3. Fukushima Exclusion Zone. The strongest earthquake ever recorded in Japan occurred at 2:46 p.m. local time on March 11, 2011. A tremendous tsunami, with waves reaching heights of 35 meters, was caused by this earthquake event. People had to find a safe place to hide out for at least 20 minutes after the earthquake hit. Damage to the electrical and cooling systems of the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Okuma was significant when the tsunami struck 40 minutes thereafter. This caused 3 of the 6 reactors at the facility to overheat, which in turn caused several explosions and the emission of radioactive smoke. A 1,150 square kilometer exclusion zone was established around the plant in Japan to protect the public from radiation, and the authorities wasted no time in ordering evacuations. It is anticipated that the cleaning and recovery activities would continue for about 40 years, despite attempts to handle the consequences. No one is allowed to enter the zone because of the dangerous circumstances there. Nevertheless, daring people from other nations, such as the Polish photographer Arkadiusz Podniesinski in 2015, have unlawfully entered the region in an attempt to capture the aftermath directly and form their own opinions about the catastrophe. Number 2. Enigmatic Lascaux Cave. Approximately 600 prehistoric wall paintings may be seen at Lascaux Cave, close to the hamlet of Montignac. Representing the indigenous fauna from eons ago, these paintings feature a wide array of gigantic beasts. In keeping with the local Upper Paleolithic fossil record, they provide a window into bygone eras. Experts continue to disagree on the precise date of these paintings, although they were likely created across many generations and are thought to be roughly 17,000 years old. The cave has been under stringent entry restrictions since 1963 in order to preserve its historical and aesthetic value. By recreating the Lascaux Cave digitally, we may now see these prehistoric treasures up close and personal, without ever having to leave the comfort of our own homes. Insight into our forebears' daily life and the environment they lived in may be found in the ancient paintings found in the Lascaux Caves. The only way to guarantee that other generations may enjoy and learn from these extraordinary works of art is to preserve and share them via technological means. Number 1. The Iraq-Kuwait border. The intriguing history of Kuwait is characterized by invasions and fights for freedom. Kuwait became one of the world's richest states after winning independence in 1961 because of its huge oil reserves. Peace was disrupted for both the residents and the authorities as tensions with neighboring Iraq and Saudi Arabia remained. The 1961 invasion of Kuwait by Iraq's Minister Abdul sparked international alarm. Thankfully, the situation was averted when British forces stepped in. But in the 1970s, Iraq and Saudi Arabia reclaimed Kuwaiti territory. On August 2, 1990, Saddam Hussein committed the most brutal invasion when he seized Kuwait, installed his government, and declared it a province of Iraq. The world oil supply was disrupted as a result of this occupation, which triggered intervention and sparked the Gulf War. Thankfully, once the war ended on February 28, 1991, Kuwait recovered its freedom. The UN authorized the building of a barrier between Iraq and Kuwait in order to deter future invasions. With electric fence, barbed wire, and a deep trench manned by troops and patrol helicopters, this barrier originally stretched 190 kilometers, but was eventually expanded to 2,117 kilometers in 2004. That's all for today. Like and subscribe the video and see you next time.